Welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. What's the best gaming CPU in December 2023? We'll go through all the pricing and availability right now for both Intel and Ryzen CPUs, both current gen and last gen. We'll also talk about CPU pricing in 2024. Should you be buying something right now, or should you be waiting for Ryzen 8000 or Intel 14th gen locked CPUs? Remember, if you get value out of this video, give it a like, because it makes a huge difference to the channel, and of course subscribe. Click that bell icon. That way you get notified when we release cool content. With that, let's jump into it. This video is sponsored by Best Buy, your source for amazing gaming and streaming gear. Take full command of the battlefield with the Razer Black Widow V4 Pro mechanical gaming keyboard with chroma RGB lighting and 8 dedicated macro keys. Dominate with Razer's most advanced gaming mouse in the Basilisk V3 Pro with 10+1 programmable buttons and 30K optical sensor. And enjoy clear comms in style and comfort with the Logitech Pro X2 Lightspeed wireless gaming headset. Upgrade your gaming experience with Best Buy using the links in the video description. Let's jump into current CPU pricing right now, December 2023. And remember, we are going to get new CPUs next year. We'll go through when to expect those in the news section. Here's a spoiler alert, probably not as soon as you'd like, but let's check in with current pricing on the Ryzen 7000 series CPUs, because we saw some really insane discounts over Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and including right now. Some of those discounts are still going on. Let's start off with the Ryzen 5 7600, 7600X. Remember, they're effectively interchangeable because you're going to toss that included stock cooler with the 7600. So $199 right now. This is not just a Black Friday deal, although it was a good deal for Black Friday. You can pick this up right now, Amazon Newegg, for $199. The 7600X is about $10 different. Sometimes it swaps in for the $199 when the retailer runs out. And these did sell through at both retailers, both Amazon and at Newegg, and then they're basically being restocked as fast as they can get them. And of course, we got the Ryzen 7 7700 and 7700X, not as interchangeable because that included stock cooler with the 7700 is really, really nice, and it is more than you need for the 7700, so that is a nice little value. But right now, $319 over at Amazon, really scratching my head about why this CPU even exists right now, given what we're about to go through for the Ryzen 7800 X3D, which has been the best-selling CPU on Amazon's list basically throughout the entire Black Friday period. Really, really crazy, because typically it's Ryzen 5000 CPUs because they're just cheaper. But $319 right now, kind of hard to justify this thing's existence. Yes, but let's talk about that 7800 X3D. $348, actually $1 lower than its best Black Friday and Cyber Monday price when it got to $349. $348 right now over at Newegg. And again, this is after the sales price minus the promo code there. They have continuously had this thing on sale, although every now and then it pops back up to the $359. They don't have the promo code. You can also pick this up over at Amazon for that $358. So really, really good price on the 7800 X3D. Again, I don't know why the 7700 even exists at its current price. And then for the rest of the stack, really the only other interesting one here is the 7950X. I would warn you away from the 7950 X3D, 7900 X3D. Those double CCD X3D parts have had some challenges in terms of their usability, but if you want like massive cores, 7950X, 556, unfortunately kind of bouncing back up from that October price. 575 dipped down to 541, had some interesting Black Friday deals, nothing super amazing, but now 556. Let's quickly punch through Ryzen 5000 CPU pricing, because we saw some pretty insane deals for Black Friday, and honestly, the deals keep rolling. Let's start off with the bad news, the Ryzen 5500. That CPU has struggled to remain in stock since Amazon Prime Day in October. Currently, you can get it for $92 if you back order it at Newegg. I don't do back orders on our list, so I've got it listed at $120, which is what you can get it right now for over at Amazon for kind of immediate delivery. But I will note that a lot of B450 and even B550 motherboard prices are on super sale right now, so it still may be the top rated CPU in terms of budget price to performance. Then of course we've got pretty much the insane value right now, which is the Ryzen 5600. $129, obviously that's the CPU I would really buy if you're looking at this price point. We'll go through Intel offerings right now. They do have some compelling ones competing against the 5600, but the 5600 at $129, just insanely good price right now over at Newegg and at Amazon. Really hasn't budged off this price. I know last Black Friday it got to $118. Didn't quite get down that far. Was kind of fingers crossed on that one. But we'll have to see, especially in the new year, where the CPU goes. Then we got the 5700X right now, $169. It seems to be staying at that price. That's a pretty good price for it. I still like to see it a little bit, teeny bit cheaper out there. If I'm telling the truth, $169, you can get it at Amazon. You can also get it at Newegg. Challenge here is it doesn't give you a ton more gaming performance than the 5600. So what are you spending the extra money for if you don't need to do tons of productivity work. Then, of course, we got the 5800 X3D. You're like, dude, Jason, who cares? $317, it's just like $6 difference. But during Black Friday, during Cyber Monday, look at that. The price got all the way down to $290. This lasted actually just slightly after Black Friday and Cyber Monday. It's currently gone at that price right now, $317. It's not that much more expensive, but it is nice to see a discount on these, especially if you own an AM4 motherboard. Although we will talk about 5700 X3D, 5500 X3D potentially launching in the new year. Maybe it makes this obsolete. Let's jump into Intel CPU pricing. I will say there were some surprising discounts on 13th gen CPUs and 12th gen as well. Let's punch through them. No real change to the quote unquote 14th gen. We all know that those are just rebranded 13th gen, except for the 14700K, which does have more E-cores, and you might consider it for $392. Essentially, the price on all those 14600K, 14700K, 14900K, completely unchanged. Let's jump into the ones that have changed. Other than the 13900K went up in price. I don't understand that. But the 13700K down to $335 from $364. I think the most interesting one though is the i5 13600K down to $249 right now. $249 for the CPU. This is the KF version. Remember the way we do pricing here? The F versus the non-F version. This just means it doesn't have an integrated GPU when it has the F on it. We don't really care about that unless you're a high-end video editor and you want that Intel QuickSync, then get the one with the K in it instead. Right now, you can pick this up over at Amazon, $249, much more competitive, although of course, Ryzen cut their prices too if you're mostly interested in gaming. All right, then we've got, of course, the 12th gen and the 13th gen locked CPUs. Honestly, the 13500, 13400, 13100, really not worth talking about. Prices continue not to budge at all. Even though these are a terrible price to performance, Intel, you got to do something about that. We did see the 13400 over the summer get to $165. I have no idea why it sits at $200. Total garbage at that price. But let's talk where the real deals were for Black Friday. If you want an Intel CPU, heck, maybe even didn't want one, but the deals were so compelling. Let's start with the 12600K, currently $199, but it did get down to $140. That's right, $140 for the 12600KF. And if you wanted the K version with the integrated graphics, $153. And you could get $99 budget G690 motherboards that are DDR4. I would heavily recommend DDR4 if you're going to do a budget build around the 12600KF. You don't get much more performance with 12th gen using DDR5. Go DDR4 all the way there. And we were able to put out something like this where we kind of put together a build, $800 1440p creator build. Really insane value if you're looking for a creator PC. In gaming, remember, doesn't give that much more performance than the Ryzen 5600, but it's got those extra cores if you want to do heavy multi-threaded kind of production work. And the 12400, honestly, this morning was down to $139. There was just a blip though. It seems to have popped immediately back up to $149. It's a little rough on that CPU given it's $20 more than the Ryzen 5600, and AMD B550 motherboards just have way more features and they're way cheaper than Intel B60, 660, and B760 motherboards. Though I will say the i3 12100, especially given the Ryzen 5500 just kind of has evaporated off the market, at least temporarily, maybe forever, we'll have to see. $92 right now. Pretty good price for that CPU, given that you can find some B660 deals out there for ultra cheap motherboards. Let's jump into the CPU news. Let's focus in on what CPUs we're expecting in 2024. 2024 launches for both AMD as well as Intel. There's basically, on the AMD side, going to be two different launches. Now remember, this is all leaks, this is all rumors. Nothing has been officially announced by either Intel or AMD for this entire segment. So just continue to take that grain of salt with you as we go through this. Let's start off. I got this really nice chart that Video Cards put together of all the things that we expect to be coming. I'll leave that link down in the video description along with the article here so you can check that out. Basically, they've compiled a lot of leaks and other things into what you see here. We are expecting AMD to launch two kind of next gen lineups, right? Which is based on the AM5 socket, which we're currently socketing Ryzen 7000 series CPUs into. The first is going to be a series of APUs. I don't know how exciting this is going to be for most folks because they're basically taking Ryzen 7000 series CPUs, which are based on the Zen 4 architecture, and they're going to slam a bunch of RDNA 3, which is Radeon 7000 series GPU architecture in there, but it's not going to be a ton of them. It's just going to be 12 compute units. Maybe you'll get 1080p kind of low to medium settings. It really remains to be seen how much they clock those up. It's not just about the compute units, of course, it's how fast they can run them. There's all kinds of other things. And these CPUs, just one other note, It's rumored that they're only going to have about half the amount of L3 cache as the current Ryzen 7000 series CPUs, so they're probably not going to beat any of the Ryzen 7000 series CPUs in terms of gaming with a discrete graphics card. So that's the first thing. Not sure most folks are going to be super excited about that, but we do expect those will be announced in January and launch sometime around January or February. Of course, the other CPU that we expect to be announced in early January, at least one, is the 5700 X3D, possibly the 5500 X3D. And again, these are for AM4, the socket that never seems to die. It's like a vampire. You just can't kill this thing. It's not really clear that we're getting both of these. Remember, again, leaks, rumors, all those kind of caveats out there, but a number of sources have seemingly confirmed the Ryzen 5700 X3D is definitely going to be announced, possibly the 5500 X3D, and we'll have to see. It's all going to come down to pricing to see whether or not these are even really that interesting out there. You know, I would love to see the 5700 X3D come in at like $160, you know, $169 would be an amazing price point. Otherwise, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of point. I'm also super interested in the 5500 X3D because it seems like that's not based on the current 5500, which is the APU architecture, but based on the Ryzen 5600, maybe slightly downclocked with X3D. That could be super, super interesting. Rounding out is the CPU that you're probably waiting for, which is the Zen 5 based Ryzen 8000 series CPUs for desktop. So these are going to be the successor to the current Ryzen 7000 series CPUs out there. We are expecting at least, possibly a 15% uplift in IPC, some other improvements out there. It really remains to be seen. I don't want to get too much into performance because we just haven't seen a lot of data yet. Now, these are supposed to come in the first half of 2024. That's anytime between January and the end of June, right? I will say I don't expect them to be announced in January. I could be wrong, of course, at CES, because otherwise I feel like we would have seen a lot more performance leaks from upcoming Zen 5 CPUs, and we just really haven't seen that many so far. So I'm probably pegging this more like a June-ish, May or June kind of launch. And I don't expect AMD to say much at CES about this, maybe other than the fact that, yes, eventually they're coming in 2024, just a kind of tip of the hat or nod, so to speak. Again, I could be totally wrong on this. This is just me taking an educated guess based on the lack of information and rumors out there so far. I will say, of course, we don't expect any X3D CPUs to launch. We expect them to launch just like they did with Ryzen 7000, the non-X3D CPUs first, and then a period of months, maybe half a year or more until we get the X3D variants. Let's jump into the Intel side. Let's start off with what we're expecting from them in CES in January. Honestly, if they keep to their release schedule, which they've done with 12th gen and 13th gen, we will get locked quote unquote 14th gen CPUs in January, probably announced at CES. But I just want to caution folks, just like with the 14600K, 14700K, 14900K, we expect these to be basically just rebadged 13th gen CPUs. Some of those 13th gen CPUs were just rebadged 12th gen, like the i5 13400, which is basically a 12600K without the K in it. Basically, they're just going to take the best CPU bins and they're going to bin them as 14th gen. There you go. We are not seeing a lot of performance in the leaks so far. Right here, the i5 14400F, only 2.1% faster in multi-core than the 13400. So we'll just have to wait and see. Don't expect anything like earth-shattering from locked 14th gen. Let's jump into the best gaming CPU 2023 in December and the best production CPU as well. If you're not familiar with how we do this, we take all those CPUs, we take their costs, we take the RAM costs, we take the motherboard costs, cooler costs, we put them all together and we get a cost for both gaming and production. We divide them by their performance here, the gaming score or the multi-core score, and those are both locked to the i3 12100, and then we get a price to performance for both gaming and for production. Of course, you can jump into the spreadsheet if you want. It's linked down in the video description. These are US-based prices. Put in prices for your region, change the configurations, whatever you want. Let's jump into the best budget gaming CPU, December 2023, and a total shocker here, the Ryzen 5600 on top of the list. Now the 5500, obviously availability issues, but the i3 12100, I really expected to take the top spot here. Unfortunately, B660 motherboards are its undoing right now, unless you can find good motherboards. There were some really, really good deals out there like the ASRock B660 M Pro RS. Seems like it's sold out everywhere right now. Maybe that'll change in the next couple of days, but the motherboard prices are really killing it. Meanwhile, B550 motherboard prices have absolutely plunged out there, and you can pick up a Ryzen 5600 for only $129, not that much more, and it's got quite a bit more performance to it. Look at the total cost, $247 versus just $230, only a $17 difference. I don't know why you wouldn't pick up the 5600 there. Insane price to performance. Of course, the i5 12400 totally lost in the woods out there. Just Intel cut prices, help it out. 5700X, if you want a little bit more performance, kind of makes some sense, but it's really hard to justify given that it doesn't have that much more gaming performance than the 5600X. You're giving up about $50 in order to get that CPU. Jumping over the best mid-range production CPU. So this is where the multi-core score is 170 or greater, and the price is less than $700 for the whole platform. Now, remember, for production, we want 32 gigs at least of DDR4 or DDR5 RAM out there. And honestly, look at this. This is a category Intel continues to dominate given how core heavy their CPUs are. The 12700K right now, even at $271, when this thing was $199, it was a totally insane value out there. But for only $463, you can get a super powerful production CPU as long as you're mostly focused on production and you don't also want gaming, because then the gaming CPUs make a lot more sense for single threaded. Other standouts, the 13500 with its extra P cores out there, and the i5 12600K, especially if it goes back to that insane $140 price. Ryzen is kind of nowhere to be found here. 5700X kind of left out there in the wilderness. It's not terrible if you want a platform that you might be able to upgrade to the 5800 X3D, but honestly, then you're just primarily focused on gaming and probably pick up a more powerful Intel CPU instead. Jumping over the best mid-range gaming CPU. So this is where the gaming score is 130 or greater and the total price is less than $700. Right now, look at that. The Ryzen 7600 just crushing, absolutely crushing everything. Look at that gaming price to performance, $3.04. The next one is like 50 cents more. That's insane. Why is that happening? The Ryzen 7600, well, price reductions on that, price reductions on the B650 motherboards, DDR5 RAM is getting cheaper out there, and honestly, the Intel motherboards are not getting that much cheaper. In fact, they went back up a little bit, at least for Z690, Z790 boards out there, keeping the price of the 13600K not really as competitive, despite it getting like a $35 price cut, which I was kind of excited about. If you do want a hybrid gaming production system, of course, 13600K is definitely one to look at. But if you're just gaming out there, primarily gaming, the Ryzen 7600 absolutely cleaning clocks. Now the 5800 X3D, if you don't have to buy a motherboard, if you don't have to buy RAM because you already have that in an older AM4 platform, makes a ton of sense to upgrade to right now for just $317. The rest of the CPUs on here are just kind of in no man's land. Moving over to performance production. So this is where the multi-core score is 330 or greater, and there is no price limit. No price limit on this. And listen, Intel and the 14700K, the one saving grace of 14th gen was they added some more P cores to that 13700K and they call it 14700K. And look at that. For the price to performance right now, it's insane. $1.81. Compare anything else out there, it's got at least a 10% advantage. That's huge. The Ryzen 7950X, obviously, if you want super high-end performance and you also want future upgradability to an 8950X, 9950X, who knows? That's one option out there. But I will tell you, if you're just looking for high performance production and you want a system that probably will last 4 or 5 years, that 14700K, super hard to beat right now at a total cost of only $762. I don't know what AMD is thinking with the 7900X. Really needs some massive price cuts on that thing. Jumping over the best high performance gaming CPU in December 2023. This is where the gaming score is 160 or greater, and we have no price cap. No price cap. And remember, you're going to need a super high-end GPU for these. You want at least like a Radeon RX 7900 XT or higher, or an RTX 4070 Ti or higher before you think about grabbing one of these CPUs, unless you're not just gaming, but this is gaming. And right now, the Ryzen 7800 X3D just destroys everything else out there, not just in price to performance, where it's $3.68. I mean, the next cheapest one is 60 cents away. That's insane. But also in terms of the total platform cost, you can build this for $703. And this is using like a higher end B650 motherboard. You can of course put it on a budget B650, but you could put 13700K on a budget board. So I try and do like for like in all these, and I try and do more premium builds for these. Honestly, I just don't see why you do a 13700K or 14700K if you're primarily gaming. But the 7800 X3D, it's got 8 performance cores on it, so it's going to basically give you a lot of horsepower, even if you want to do video editing, even if you want to do all those other kind of multi-threaded tasks. So really, it just absolutely crushes anything else in here. Now, I will warn folks away from the 7900 X3D, 7950 X3D. I'm just including the information here. It continues to have issues. It's got 2 CCDs, only one has the V cache, and it continues to have issues to know when to turn off and turn them back on. That's why I would go with the 7800 X3D for gaming. And if you want high-end production, you want Ryzen 7950X. But honestly, Intel just needs to do a lot of work here. Maybe Meteor Lake is coming to save them. Good kitty. Kitty, kitty. Let's play everyone's favorite game. Should you buy now or should you wait? Well, honestly, we have some insane deals right now. We just went through the CPU deals. They're still as good. Even if you're like, Jason, I miss Black Friday. I miss Cyber Monday. I'd say, so what? The deals are still pretty good. In fact, some of the deals are even better than Black Friday right now. But let's talk about reasons you might wait. Intel 14th gen, locked parts, they're just going to be basically 13th gen, right? They're just rebadged 13th gen. Not really worth waiting for. Meteor Lake, we have no information on. I don't really wait for unannounced products like that. Then, of course, we have on the AMD Ryzen side, what do we got? We've got, the APUs. I don't really think those are worth waiting for. Ryzen series 8000 CPUs. Again, we just don't have any leaks that lead me to believe that these are imminently going to be launched. I could be wrong about all this, but to me, this seems like a good time to take advantage of the lowest prices on Ryzen 7000 or Intel 13th or 14th gen if you want those products when they're still very, very relevant. Let's start off with the budget end. Honestly, I don't know how you get away from the Ryzen 5600. Insane levels of performance and super, super cheap right now. You can build a gaming PC for $500, $600, $700 right now that gives really, really good performance. I don't know when's the last time we were able to do that, even before the graphics card shortage. And then, of course, we've got the mid-range on the Ryzen 7600, $199, B650 motherboards, dirt cheap, DDR5 RAM, dirt cheap. It just seems like it's really, really hard to get away from. This is the time to build, even at the mid-range. GPUs, they've gone up a little bit since Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but honestly, they haven't gone up that much. And given the pricing of everything is so much lower, I don't mind paying a little bit more for the GPU, given the other components out there are so much cheaper. Finally, at the high end, what would I be doing? Well, honestly, if I have a high-end GPU like an RTX 4080, a 4090, although 4090s are hard to come by right now, or something like a 7900 XTX or XT, I would definitely be looking for a Ryzen 7800 X3D gaming PC build. It's $348, and again, those motherboards, the RAM, everything else is on super sale. It's just super hard to get away from. I would be building now. Remember, if you got value out of this video, give it a like so it makes a huge difference to the channel, especially this guy right here who just bit me. And of course, subscribe. Click that bell icon. That way you get notified when we release cool content. Hey, speaking of cool content, we do the same thing for the entire GPU market. What were GPU prices doing right now in December? Should you be buying a GPU? Check it out right here. We go through all the GPU prices, and we'll catch you on the next one. Okay.